Okay, I don't have any the text to share on screen this week because it would take too long to go through this inside. So I'm just going to go through this basically outside, and you should stop me with any questions. And not only, obviously, we're not just dealing with halachas which are specific to women, but halachas which are generally relevant to men and women, regardless. So I'm going to start early with washing in the morning when one gets up. Everybody has to wash their hands 3 times, one after the other when they get up in the morning. You shouldn't touch any food before you wash your hands. If someone has to go to the bathroom, then they should not make the bracha until Yosef before they go to the bathroom. They should wash, go to the bathroom, and wash again. Also, you shouldn't make this bracha twice. I don't know what they do in schools nowadays, but if you should, it's best to say the bracha not in school, but in the morning when you get up, and not to repeat it again. And the way you're supposed to do it is you're supposed to wash again, say modani, wash your hands, then go to the bathroom, wash again, and then say Amanti Yosidayim, Asher Yotzar, and Elokai Neshama. All 3, one back to back. Even though and although one can say Asher Yotzar in the morning, even when one does go to the bathroom, because there's a special takana to say Asher Yotzar once a day, because praise to Hashem independently. Nevertheless, it's best to do it after one goes to the bathroom, and also Elokai Neshama. And women are obligated to say Elokai Neshama because any bracha which has to do with thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, women have to make it the same way that men have to make it. Okay, so and again, coming to Shacharis itself. So women have to daven Shacharis. Although there are those women who, I'm doing this actually say out of a Sefer Kadoshim to you, which is halachos for, which has as a companion by halachos. It was written many years ago for youth movements, but it does a good job of compiling halachos in general. So women are chayav daven Shacharis. The women who rely on saying some sort of techina, the techina is a supplication to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, such as Morani, and they exempt themselves to davening on that basis. And they have what to rely on. That's certainly the case. Magen Avraham passes that way, and the Mishabur does bring it down. But most poskim hold not that way. Most poskim hold that women have to daven Shacharis, and that's Mishabur brings it down, and others. And we will see what parts of Shacharis they have to daven and what parts they don't. So begin with Moda'ani, Matova, Adon Olam, and Yigdal. All these things are praises of Kodesh Baruch Hu, and women are not required to do that and say them. Men are not required to say them either, because they're praise of Kodesh Baruch Hu. They're not part of the takana of Chazal to daven, but men and women are equally advised to say Modani Matoba Adon Olam and Yigdal. Birchas Torah, which is the 2 brachos of Lasok Divrei Torah, which leads into Va'arevna and Asher Baruch Habanu. Women are chayiv to make a Birchas Torah. They have to, because there's several reasons given. One of them is because women also have to learn Torah, the halachos which are relevant to them. If women are going to learn Torah, then they have to make the bracha, and so therefore it's the women should make the Birchas Torah every day, if at all possible. And afterwards, after the Birchas Torah, there's the psukim and parts of a Mishnah and Tosefta from later on, and obviously the history of Torah. So since the idea is to say Birchas Torah and immediately to learn some Torah, so women should do that as well. Theoretically, you can choose anything else to learn, right? This happens to be the formula which they put into davening, but the main point is they're supposed to learn immediately after making Birchas Torah. So therefore, these things which are chosen, once women make Birchas Torah, they also should say these things as well. Okay, the Birchas Shachar, women also have to say all Birchas Shachar, because one is not allowed to benefit from this world without a bracha. And anybody who, Gemara says, anybody who has benefits in this world without a bracha, is as if they commit an act of me'ilah. They desecrated something which is holy, and therefore also women have to say birchas hashachar. Obviously, women say shosani kiritzono, but instead of shosani isha. It's interesting that the other birchas hashachar, I don't know what girls do, but it's supposed to say shosani goya, shosani shifcha, not shosani goya, shosani ovid. Do girls actually change that when they say the brachas? Yes, no, maybe. Any responses? Okay, if anybody wants to let me know about this at some point. Again, women, it says here that women should change the way they make the bracha from Shlohasani Goy to Goya and Shlohasani Ovid, Shlohasani Shivcha.
Hi, Hoffer. Sorry, my microphone, like the settings are weird. But I know some people that say Shivcha. I never heard anyone say Goya though.
Okay, well, this is brought down from several sources, and I think that makes sense because it's grammatically correct. So you should take the consider it. Now korbanos. So a lot of boys don't say korbanos. In yeshivas, they don't say korbanos, and the question is why. It's not clear why boys don't say korbanos, and to the same extent, it's not clear why girls don't say korbanos. But many poskim hold that girls should say korbanos as well. Now, I would think that the possible reason why girls don't say korbanos is because the korbanos sibur, which were brought from which include the tamid and the ketores, were brought from the machzis shekel, and machzis shekel was not given by women; it was only given by men. So therefore, it could be that that's why women don't say parshas korbanos, because they did not bring the machzis shekel. And the individual korbanos, which appear at the end of the korbanos, where you have ezim makomot shel zvachim, that even men don't have to say. Because it's only if you feel you have to bring in an individual korban for some reason, then you should recite the korbanos, but otherwise it's not necessary. So again, technically, I think that that's the limud schus, at least for women, why they don't say korbanos, because they didn't give them machzis shekel. For men, there's really no excuse, and I don't know why most yeshivas skip korbanos. Not clear to me. Okay, next we come to psukim de zimra. So psukim de zimra, a person is supposed to preface their davening, their request by Kodesh Baruch Hu for Shema and Shemona Esrei, the acknowledging of Kodesh Baruch Hu with the praises of Psukim de Zimra. So therefore, women would be required to say Psukim de Zimra. However, there are those who say that they're not required to say Psukim de Zimra, but of course they're allowed to, because there's no reason to prevent them from doing so, but they're not required to do so. So if the women want to say Psukim de Zimra, they certainly should. If they don't have time to say Psukim de Zimra, then perhaps they can rely on the opinions that say that women don't have to say Psukim de Zimra. Okay, Kriya Shema and its brachos. So women are exempt from Kriya Shema since the mitzvah to say Shazman Grama. It's appropriate for women to say Kriya Shema because it's Kabbalah's Omal Kushamayim. It's a wonderful thing to accept HaKadosh Baruch Hu as our God and as our one God. And also, if that's the case, that they should certainly say Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuso L'Olam Boy. But they are not required to say Shema. And women also, therefore, not required to say Birkos Kriya Shema. Birkos Kriya Shema also have a specific time to which they're linked, which is the time. But besides that, they are linked to Shema. Now, again, according to Ashkenazim, there's no reason for women not to say these brachas, and the same with HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Olam, the whole formula of a bracha. I should make it clear that Eidot HaMizrach, Sfardim, do not say brachas. They don't say Baruch Atah Hashem for Shasani Kirtzono. They don't. Some people shouldn't say Baruch Atah Hashem for Baruch Shamar Nishtabach, because if they're not required to say Pesukei Diyam Zimra, they shouldn't be. That they're not required to say the bracha. In general, Sfardim of the opinion that if you're not required to make a bracha, you can't make it b'shem malchus. There's no such thing as an optional bracha. Ashkenazim are of the opinion that if you even not required to make a bracha, you can make the bracha b'shem malchus. But Sfardim hold not that way. So therefore, we have a major difference of opinion as to how that's going to work. Whether in fact, Rav Ovadia Yosef says that women should not break the brachas. Pesukei Zimra, they shouldn't say the birchas Kriya Shema with the Shemu Malchus. But I don't know, even among the Sfardim, if Rav Ovadia Yosef's radical opinion has been accepted by everybody. But certainly by Ashkenazim, we say these brachas. Now, we said that women are exempt from Kriya Shema and exempt from Kriya Shema, but most poskim hold that they can, just like they can make a bracha on any other mitzvah, say Shazman Groma. Again, Sfardiot do not make a bracha on lulav, right? They pick up a lulav on sukkahs. They don't make a bracha. Because it's mitzvah say Shazman Groma. And Sfardi both know women don't make a bracha mitzvah say Shazman Groma. But we hold, the Ashkenazim hold, and women do make a bracha on mitzvah say Shazman Groma. If they want to do the mitzvah, they want to make a bracha. So therefore, according to Ashkenazim, women can make a bracha because Kriya Shema. And there's those who say that even if a woman doesn't normally make a bracha on Birkas Shema Groma, they have to make the bracha Birkas Kriya Shema because they're really part of Tefillah, besides being part of Shema. So if they were just part of Shema, then we look at them as Shema Groma, and perhaps women wouldn't have to make a bracha, wouldn't make a bracha on it. It's according to Sfardim. But according to the other poskim who hold that Birkas Kriya Shema is also part of Tefillah, which makes sense because the time to which you can say Birkas Kriya Shema is not linked to the time of Shema itself. Shema itself is supposed to be said in the first 3 hours of the day. The Shema Esrei is supposed to be said during the first 4 hours of the day. Birkas Kriya Shema can be said during the first 4 hours of the day, just like Shema Esrei. So it seems that Birkas Kriya Shema do have an element of being tefillah, not just part of Shema. So that's the case, even if it's not just a mitzvah say Shazman Groma, it's part of the takana of tefillah. And we have to differentiate because, Shema also should be considered mitzvah say Shazman Groma, right? Because you have only up to 4 hours into the day or until chatzos, if you miss the 4 hours, and then you can't have shabbos anymore. And mincha only till nightfall, and marav only during the night. So these should all be considered mitzvah say Shazman Groma. But they're not, because Chazal instituted tefillah, and they said you should daven regardless of whether you're male or female. And this is an interesting distinction. In the Torah, we have mitzvah say Shazman Groma, which women are not obligated to do. In the Rabbanans, it doesn't work that way. Rabbanan require women to do mitzvahs very often, even though they're time contingent. So therefore, if Birkas Kriya Shema is part of Shema, so just like they're exempt from Shema, they'll be exempt from Birkas Kriya Shema. If Birkas Kriya Shema are part of Tefillah, so just like Chazal required women to daven, so too they require them to say Birkas Kriya Shema. Now, in terms of davening itself, women have to daven Shemona Esrei, but there is a major machlokas between the Rambam and Ramban how it works. According to the Rambam, the mitzvah of Tefillah is midoraisa. It's a Torah mitzvah. Everybody's got to daven every day. But the time that one davens and the number of the tefillos and the formula of davening, that's all the Rabbanim. Well, if that's the case, tefillah is certainly not a mitzvah say Shazman Groma, because you have to the mitzvah d'oraisa to daven is any time during the course of the day. So therefore, it's not contingent on time, and therefore women are definitely chayav. They're required to daven. According to the Rambam, again, from on a total level, a person can daven any way they want, anytime they want, even one time a day. So therefore, that on that basis, we have the women who say that who exempt themselves to Davening Shemona Esrei by saying just some sort of supplication, some sort of pechina in the morning. That should suffice them for the whole day. But it's interesting. The Rav Yosef, who said before that women don't have to make, they shouldn't make a lot of brachas. He does not. He's not having this. He says, even according to the Rambam, just a simple request. Hashem, be nice to me. That's not enough, right? You have to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have to make requests of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So according to the Rambam, women have Davening Shemona Esrei anyway, according to Rav Yosef, because even though they can do it once a day, they have to Davening Shemona Esrei once a day. That's his opinion. The Ramban argues in the Rambam. The Ramban holds that there is no mitzvah in the Torah to daven. It's a good thing to daven. It's a wonderful thing to daven, but it's not required. It's only the Rabbanan, right? And where Rabbanan, they determine the time and the formula and the number of tefillos to daven. So when they require, just like they required men to daven, they required women to daven as well, even though it's Zeishas Man Grama. Because since tefillah causes Hashem to have rachamim on us, women also need rachamim just as much as the men. So therefore, the women also were included in takana of davening. He says most poskim determined that like the Ramban, they pass like the Ramban that and therefore women have to daven Shemona Esrei. How many times a day? We'll come to when we get to mincha. But women are supposed to have, according to most poskim, women have to daven Shemona Esrei. Again, as we said, according to the Rambam, there's perhaps a leniency to say that the women don't have to daven, but even according to the Rambam, according to Rav Yosef, no, Shemona Esrei do have to daven. What comes as an interesting thing though, which is since women are required to do Birkos Kriya Shema, that means that women are not required to be somech gulul tefillah. It's really not a requirement for men either. It's just a very strong custom that we immediately go from Gal Yisrael to Hashem's Chosai Tiftach. We don't interrupt in the middle. But if for a man who's chayav to say Birkos Kriya Shema, it's obvious that a person has to do that. If a woman would not have enough time to daven in the morning, so let me put it like this: if a man has to make time to daven Birkos Kriya Shema and then Shemona Esrei, he can't skip Birkos Kriya Shema. If a woman for some reason doesn't have enough time to say Birkos Kriya Shema, she can skip directly to Shemona Esrei. The obligation for women to be some gulul tefillah is not as strong as for men because they're not required to say Birkos Kriya Shema. Okay. Now, after, I don't know if you ever noticed this, but after the siddur in Shachris, there is something called Tachanun. Tachanun is when you say if there's Sefer Torah, so men go there like this, and they sit down and they say Tachanun. And there's a longer Tachanun from Monday and Thursday. And the reason why there's Tachanun is so a person should daven sitting during Shema, standing during Shemona Esrei, and bent over during Tachanun. And just like we find Moshe Rabbeinu did. But it's not mandatory. It's only it's voluntary. Now it's true that all men did accept upon themselves to say Tachanun, but women, it seems, never accept upon themselves to say Tachanun. And I find this to be a fascinating concept that men and women accepted things differently. But we find this in several areas in halacha. The other area in which you find this halacha is by Mayim Achronim. It's brought down that even though men wash a lot of men don't wash Mayim Achronim, but even according to opinion that men should wash Mayim Achronim, there are opinions that women don't have to. And the poskim say that women do not accept upon themselves the Mayim Achronim, which is like it's always. I always imagine that the women had a big meeting sometime 2,000 years ago and decided, okay, we're not going to accept Mayim Achronim. We're not going to accept saying Tachanun. But I don't know if that actually happened that way. I doubt it. But the point is that over time, women never adopted the minhag to say Tachanun, and therefore women do not have to say Tachanun. Okay, now it says after Tachanun comes Ashrei and Avolat Zion. Ashrei L'Matzeach and Avolat Zion. In school, do you say all these things, by the way? Do you say Ashrei L'Matzeach and Avolat Zion? You do? Yeah. So Ashrei is good to say because it says anybody who says Ashrei 3 times a day, Sukkot Zimra, after Shemona Esrei and by Mincha, is considered to be a Ben Olam Haba, and therefore it's a good thing for anybody to say. Also, their Lamnatseach is a prayer for Yeshua, for salvation, and therefore it's appropriate for women to say that as well. Volatzion is since we mentioned all the sorrows which happened to Am Yisrael over the course of our davening, so therefore we're davening now for the Geula. That's one reason. Another reason is that after davening, people should learn a little bit of Torah, because in Volatzion there's a bit of Torah. There's psukim and there's a translation to Aramaic, which is considered to be Torah Sheba'al Peh. So therefore, women should also learn a little bit of Torah after davening as well. Oleinu, this is part of davening, in order that we should embed in our hearts the oneness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kingship, to strengthen our emunah, and that Hashem will remove all avodah zarah from the land, and in order also to not go directly after davening out directly into whatever we have to do. It's like to keep davening alive a little longer. So therefore, women should say also Aleinu. Then we have this halacha, and this is from Kedoshim Tuv's summary of all chakras. Women I'm translating what he says here. Women who are in a rush to get to school, or girls who are in a rush to get to school, or women that don't have enough time to daven at length because they have the chores at home or have to go to work, they should say at least the following: Birchas HaShachar until Gomel Chasadim Tabim Lamo Yisrael, or that's according to Nusach Sfard, or to Nusach Ashkenaz until Mekadesh Shimcha Barabim. And again, as I mentioned before, even boys in the yeshiva very often don't say to Mekadesh Shimcha Barabim. So at least the Goel Yisrael, the end of that bracha, HaGomel Chasadim Tabim Lamo Yisrael. Then he says Parshas Karbanos until Ezer Mukoman, not including Ezer Mukoman. So again, I said before, maybe women don't have to say that because women are not part of the Machzis HaShekel. But, and again, many boys in yeshiva don't say it. But in theory, men and women are supposed to say it the same way. Then they should, he says they can skip Sukkot de Zimra. Men have to say at least Baruch Shamar, Ashrei, and Yishtabach. But women can skip Sukkot de Zimra. They should say Kriya Shema with their brachos until after Shmoneh Esrei. And then, if they're in a rush, they can skip to Aleinu. At the very least, he says they should say Kriya Shema and Shmoneh Esrei at the right time, which means Shema is before 3 hours into the day. And even though women are not required to do so, but it's the proper thing to do. And Shmoneh Esrei before 4 hours into the day. Okay, so that's if you're pressed for time. Now, that's Shacharis. Now, what about Mincha? So there are those who hold that women have to daven Mincha just like men, because tefillah is because we need rachamim, and also women require rachamim. And there are those who, and that is the majority opinion. There are women who rely on the fact that they daven in the morning, especially in Shmoneh Esrei in the morning, not to daven Mincha. But that's again a minority opinion. The majority opinion is like the Ramban, that Chazal said men and women both have to daven equally Shacharis and Mincha Shmoneh Esrei. Not necessarily the rest of davening, but Shmoneh Esrei. Now, if you're davening Mincha, of course, you should say Ashrei. That's the third time a day to say Ashrei. And they should say Aleinu as well. But they should be davening Mincha. Mariv, so even for men, Mariv is considered to be an optional tefillah. Now, men have accepted on themselves Mariv as mandatory. So therefore, men can no longer regard it as voluntary. But women never accepted themselves to daven Mariv, and therefore women are not required to daven Mariv. Although there are poskim who disagree. There are those who say that women should be davening Mariv, but the majority opinion is that women don't have to daven Mariv. It's something which is a nice thing to do, but not required. Women are required to say Kriya Shema Lamita. They have to say Kriya Shema Lamita before they go to sleep, just like the men, because that obviously has to do with preserving oneself during the night, making sure the night is a safe night. So therefore, women should say Kriya Shema Lamita. In general, I'm not sure what most people do, but the bracha, would you say Hamapil? So some people say before Kriya Shema, some people say after Kriya Shema. I don't say it at all. I haven't said it for many, many years because it's supposed to be said, according to many poskim, specifically right before you go to sleep. And if you don't fall asleep, it's a problem because the bracha of Amapil is supposed to say right before you go to sleep. So it's a bracha, but it's not required to make that bracha. If you feel that you're going to go right to sleep, so then you should say Amapil. If you're not going to fall right asleep, so then you probably should not say it. Okay, so far so good. So basically, this is a conclusion again. He says, so women have to daven twice a day, Shachris and Mincha. That those who hold that they only have to daven one complete tefillah, right? We said before that Rabbi Yosef says you only have to daven Shachris. I'm sorry, not Rabbi Yosef. They says that after the Shemona Esrei, but those who say they only have to daven in the morning, they don't have to daven Mincha. Again, that's a minority opinion. Those who want to daven 3 times a day, it's a wonderful thing, and there's no issue of perhaps a bracha b'Torah. Somebody's going to daven, a woman's going to daven only once a day. It's preferable for daven to daven Shachris, because women's required theoretically to, although we said if a woman's in a rush, she can skip parts of it, but she really is but required, if possible, to daven as much as Tfilas Shachar, especially Birkas Shachar, especially Kabbalah Shamayim, Kriya Shema, and Shemona Esrei. So therefore, if you really only had time to daven once a day, you would daven the Tfilas Shachris. Now, this brings up an interesting question, which is, okay, what about if you couldn't daven, right? Let's say you forgot to daven Shachris, right? So then, just like men, if your minhag is to daven twice a day, Shachris and Mincha, you have to daven 2 Shemona Esreis for Mincha. If you missed Mincha, then the following Shachris, you have to daven 2 Shemona Esreis for Shachris. That's called Tashlumin. Next, you have to make up the tefillah you missed in the following tefillah. This comes up not just if you missed Shachris, but let's say you said instead of Mashi Baruch, you forgot to say Mashi Baruch Midah Geshem. And you didn't get a chance to say Shemona Esrei over again until by the time Mincha time rolled around. It's too late to daven Shachris. So also you daven 2 Shemona Esreis by Mincha. And the same, if you forgot to say by Mincha, you daven 2 Shemona Esreis by Shachris. Okay, is that clear? If a woman doesn't have the custom to daven all the tefillos all the time, Shachris and Mincha, they wouldn't make it up. But if a woman has accepted upon herself the primary halacha, which is to daven both, then if you miss them, you have to make it up in the next daven. Okay, is that clear? Now let's talk about Shabbos and Yom Tov. So Shabbos and Yom Tov, the Chazal didn't distinguish between weekdays and Shabbos and Yom Tov, and therefore girls and women have to daven on Shabbos and Yom Tov as well. If they don't come to shul, they have to still daven at home. That's Shachris and Mincha. Musaf. So there are those who hold that women are exempt from Musaf because Musaf is Mitzvah Seisha Zman Grama. The original Korban Musaf was brought at a specific time of day. And also, unlike the other tefillos, it's not asking for rachamim. Shachris, Mincha, Marv, even on Shabbos, are in order to ask for the rachamim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But Musaf is not like that. Musaf just commemorates the Korban. So this Musaf just commemorates the Korban. So some people say women don't have to daven Musaf, but they have the option to daven Musaf if they want. Then the other poskim, including Mishnah Berurah, say that women do have to daven Musaf. So it is really best for women to daven Shachris and Musaf on Shabbos. Now this brings up a very interesting issue about eating before davening. Women are not supposed to eat before davening, just the same as men are not supposed to eat before davening. Not supposed to eat before davening in the morning. You have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, something to drink, but you're not supposed to eat before davening. So the question is, at what point can you eat? So you should really wait to eat until after you finish davening. Now, a woman who only says moda'ani or some sort of tchina, like we said before, she should wait, of course, to eat before until after she says that tchina. But a woman who davens full davening, she has to wait until after she finishes davening, unless she feels sick or weak, and that would also apply to men as well. There's a famous story that the sister of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, was the third Lubavitcher Rebbe, came and she said to her brother, "Listen, I feel very weak before davening. What should I do? Should I eat or shouldn't I eat? So the Rebbe is supposed to have said, better to eat in order to daven than to daven in order to eat. And Lubavitcher Hasidim, even the men, rely on this to eat before davening, especially on Shabbos. So on weekdays, I don't think they do, but on Shabbos, they eat before davening. But most poskim hold that even on Shabbos, you're not supposed to eat before davening. Things like this. On Shabbos, there's an additional complication, which is Kiddush. You can't eat before Kiddush. So therefore, if you daven and you want to eat, you need to make Kiddush. You have to make Kiddush and then only eat. And once you make Kiddush, you must make a Kiddush itself and either have Mazonos or a Motzi in order to make Kiddush Mokum Suda. If a woman only davens Modani or some other, short tefillah, she has to make Kiddush immediately after that. Because then the Chiyuv of Kiddush takes effect the moment you finish davening. So if all you daven on Shabbos is just that little bit, so then immediately afterwards you have to make Kiddush. If you daven Shabbos and Musaf, so then the Chiyuv of Kiddush only takes effect after Musaf. So you can't eat, but you can drink before water or coffee, something like that, until the Chiyuv of Kiddush takes effect. If you don't daven on Shabbos, you just say Modani or something, then you can't even drink until after you make Kiddush. Okay, some people are making water before Kiddush, but any other beverage you can't eat. You can't drink before you make Kiddush on Shabbos. I mentioned this before. I'll mention it again. A woman who forgot to say the same Talmud or Yalav Yavo, one of those things which are supposed to be added on whatever time they're supposed to daven, they should have to repeat Shemona Esrei the same like a man repeats Shemona Esrei. There are those who say that she should say before she says repeat Shemona Esrei the following: if I have to say another Shemona Esrei, I'm going back and saying another Shemona Esrei because I'm required to do so. If I'm not, let this tefillah be a voluntary tefillah. We don't usually do this. You don't usually do voluntary tefillah. So there's a halacha on the books, which is theoretically, if you want to daven a Shemona Esrei anytime, you can make it a tefillah snadava, the voluntary Shemona Esrei. So our minhag is not to do that most of the time because we're afraid we want a proper kavanah. So even though we can do it, we don't do it. It's like kind of like just like the time based on mikdash, you bring a voluntary korban anytime you want. So you can say voluntary Shemona Esrei anytime you want. We don't do that. But sometimes in cases like this, where we're not sure whether we're required to daven again or not, so then we make a t'nai. We say if we're required, then this is a mandatory tefillah. If we're not required, this is a voluntary tefillah. So it brings down from some poskim who hold that maybe women should say this condition that if I'm required to say it over, I'm saying it over. If not, I'm saying as voluntary before they say Shemona Esrei, and when they forgot Mashiach Ruach at the same time, or whatever the case may be. Okay, in terms also of Rosh Chodesh, how I know it before I get that. I'm sure everybody knows that they're supposed to say Baruch HaMavdil. If you don't have Marv, I'll tell you Shabbos, but I'm just going to state it anyway. If you daven Marv, you say Atochan Atonu in Atochan Elodam Das. If you don't have Marv, I'll tell you Shabbos, so of course you can't do any malacha. You said before you say Baruch HaMavdil Ben Kodesh L'Chol. You don't have to actually, in order to actually eat and drink, you have to hear Abdullah. But in order to do a malacha, if you're not davening, you must say Baruch HaMavdil Kodesh L'Chol as you have Havdalah for the purpose of doing malacha. I know a lot of women are not makbid on this, but there are those who hold that women have to come and hear Kriyas Torah on Shabbos. Just like women were required to come to do the mitzvah of Hakel, to come to Hakel, they all every 7 years. They also have to come to hear Kriyas Torah. But most poskim don't hold that way. Or I should say most poskim. A lot of poskim don't hold that way. And therefore, obviously, there are women who don't come to hear laning. They don't really have the time to come to shul. But he says, and I believe this is correct, that girls who are not married should come to shul on Shabbos to daven. And they should make sure to come to davening on time. If women have to take care of children, and if you're not married, if you're babysitting, then it's best to daven at home and watch the kids and let them so their husbands and brothers can go to shul. But anytime that women can go to shul, they should go to shul. Okay, to answer Amen Yeshmei Rabbah and all those things is also a very wonderful thing for women to do. So therefore, if a woman can go to shul, it's a very, very good thing to do. In terms of Rosh Chodesh Chanukah, women can make a bracha on Hallel. Of course, certainly Ashkenazim, Sfaradiot, Ashkenazios, certainly Sfaradiot, then a lot of them don't say brachas on Hallel because it is something which seems similar to Mitzvah Seisha as Mangrama, so they're not required to do so. But our minute is that women do say bracha on Hallel, just like the men make a bracha on Hallel. One more thing is that evidently women do not accept upon themselves to say slichos. So therefore, women are not required to say slichos. If they come to say slichos, it's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing because there's no downside to saying slichos, but they're not required to say slichos. Actually, there's another thing, which is Sfiras Omer. Women are technically exempt from Sfiras Omer because Mitzvah Seisha is Mangrama. So Sfardiot, again, don't make a bracha when they count Sfiras Omer. But Ashkenazi women do make a bracha on Sfiras Omer, except that there are women who do not make a bracha on Sfiras Omer if they think there's a reasonable assumption that they're going to miss a day. So if they anticipate they're going to miss a day, so then they didn't start making a bracha because they're afraid that they would miss a day. But the truth is that we make the bracha even though we're afraid to miss a day because at the moment we didn't miss a day yet. So I don't think that I think that women do not have to not make a bracha because they're nervous they're going to miss a day in the future. Okay, any questions? I try to be as comprehensive as possible. Let me just see if there's anything else we should do here. I think that's it for now. Okay, thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can always ask them later.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.